Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Asavri Sawant, and it's my privilege to welcome you to the live panel discussion on Tracing the Cancer Curve, Uniting Healthcare Ecosystems for Collective Action Against Cancer, organized by Voice of Healthcare, powered by Zydus. Please let me give a brief about our main objective behind today's panel discussion, which is to generate awareness regarding cancer. Every year, 4th of February is marked as the World Cancer Awareness Day. It is a global uniting initiative led by the Union of International Cancer Control. This World Cancer Day, we recognize the power of knowledge. This year's theme is Close the Gap, closing the gap between patients and early detection. So, in today's live discussion, we would be exploring the ways in which different health ecosystems can come together to work towards our collective goal of reducing cancer. Please let me begin this session by welcoming our eminent dignitaries. Dr. Vineet Talwar, Director of Department of Medical Oncology at Rajiv Gandhi Cancer Institute, New Delhi. Welcome, sir. Dr. Nitesh Rohatgi, Director and HOD of Oncology at Fortis Memorial Research Institute, Gurugram. Welcome, sir. Dr. Peush Bajpai, Head of Department and Consultant and Medical Hemato Oncologist at Manipal Hospital, Dwarka. Ms. Renuka Prasad, Honorary Joint Secretary of Indian Cancer Society, New Delhi. Welcome, ma'am. Mr. Venkataraman R., Founder and CEO of Karkinos Healthcare. Welcome, sir. Mr. Ashish Kumar, Vice President and Cluster Head of Zydus Cadila. Welcome, sir. Ms. Rashmi Putcha, Founder of Inari. Welcome, ma'am. Ms. Rashmi would also be moderating this panel discussion for today. Now over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Asavri. It's an honor to be moderating this wonderful panel of speakers. And I'm going to just jump straight to the first question because I believe there are a lot of questions that we want to get answered today. So Dr. Nitesh Shatogi, this is the first one for you. Why do you think there is a general lack of awareness related to identification of cancer amongst the Indian population? Dr. Nitesh?
Okay.
Yeah, I think we had lost him for a second there. So I'm going to just repeat my question. This one is for you, Dr. Nitesh Rohatgi. Why is there a general lack of awareness related to identification of cancer amongst the Indian population?
I'm not able to hear clearly. Are others able to hear?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We are able to.
Yes.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move to the next question while you sort out your maybe mic issues, and we'll come back to you with this question. Dr. Talwar, this one is for you. What are the recommended screening guidelines for gynecological cancers, and how often is this re-screening advised?
The guidelines are basically for the cervical cancers, and there are no basic guidelines for ovarian and uterine cancers. So you can have breast cancer because the breast and the ovary, they are going in conjunction. So if you talk of the breast cancer, 40 years and above, there is a clinical breast examination, and along with that, there is mammography. Now, there are certain patients who are persons who are at a high risk who have a mutation, which is known as the BRCA1 and 2, the one which all of us know Angelina Jolie had. And because of this, it became so popular. So in those cases, instead of a yearly, we do a 6-monthly breast exam and we do a mammography. And this is done 5 years prior to the normal. That is, if you have a case, say, in the family who's got it at 40 years, so the screening for the others start at 5 years prior. In carcinoma cervix, it is recommended that 25 years and above, 5 yearly human papilloma virus testing should be done in ladies, and this can be continued till 60 years. And if you have two values which are absolutely normal, then these people can be left after 60 years. For the carcinoma of the uterus and carcinoma of the ovary, there are no defined guidelines, because whenever you talk of screening, you talk of the cost effectiveness and the cost benefit, which is to the population at large. Because, mind you, we are not screening patients, we are screening people, the general population. So we have to define that. So for the gynecological cancers, cervix is there, and of course, breast, as I told you, because there is a breast ovarian and a breast uterine connotation. So I thought I'd mention it here.
Thank you so much, sir. That was really helpful, and I'm hoping that the audience would also understand, and we keep a tab on these things and go for our screenings. The next question is for Dr. Renuka Prasad. Ma'am, what is the importance of early detection, and how can NGOs play a major role in this?
Okay, here firstly, I'd just like to clarify two issues. Firstly, I'm the secretary of the Indian Cancer Society and not the joint secretary. And secondly, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a normal breast cancer survivor who's been through the experience and has been working in this NGO now for over 25 years. So that's me, okay? So now when you're talking of early detection, well, for us, it's basically early detection, which is a keynote to be able to combat cancer. And that can only happen if there is a proper awareness. So the awareness has to be made within the public so that they can come in with the first signs of cancer. So they have to be told what are the signs and symptoms of the various cancers, which is where they themselves in their own self-examination or in their daily routine life, they are able to come across and thereafter come in and meet a doctor. The second bit is that awareness and screening go hand in hand. It's very important and for the people to realize and be made aware of the fact that an annual screening is a very important facet because it can catch the cancer at the earlier stage. And I say this with real authority because I've been through this myself. It was a breast self-examination that helped me catch my own breast cancer at the early stages where it had just started, which is why it's now over 25 years and I'm still around. So, as an example here itself, I can tell everyone that yes, early detection is really very, very important. And the awareness of that has to be spread amongst the masses. And it's ironical how we say the masses, yes. And when we say that, we try and mean the lower income group who are uneducated or who are not aware of these various symptoms. But it's really sad to see that there are people, educated ones also, who do not come for their regular screening and who have their head buried like into the sand like an ostrich and don't want to even reflect upon this issue, which is of great vital. It's really, really very, very important. So for us, we have a team of awareness speakers that go into the field giving these awareness talks. We also have a dedicated center, cancer detection center in Barber Road, which is on a fixed address. And we have two mobile vans which go out into the field in within 100 kilometers of the Delhi NCR region, where they go and conduct these screening camps. We have a very good and a very qualified team of doctors, both at the center and the ones that go out, and we try and cover up the basic concept as laid down by the government of oral, breast, and cervical cancer. Besides this, we also have the regular staff that's there. We do the blood tests, we do the x-rays, we do the pap smear, we do the breast self-examination, which is done by the gynecologist. There is an ENT specialist that looks at the head and neck cancers and looks at the mouth to see whether there is oral cancer, any signs of it, the first signs. Because like I told you, first sign is the most important part. There is a surgeon also who looks at the male people who are coming into the center, and it's all done at a very, very reasonable rate and a very affordable amount. We do a lot of these screening camps, which are free of cost, which go out into the various communities. And when we say communities, we really mean communities, because it is not only just the 𝐔𝐍𝐈𝐓𝐄𝐃 colonies that are there for the low income people or the people who are really below the BPL, but it also goes into the RWAs, into the various corporates, into the which are organized sectors. It goes into where these talks are regularly given. It goes into the institutions, into the colleges, schools, and you name it. It goes into the organizations which are the corporate ones also, who all have to be made aware of the early signs of cancer, because detection is really very, very important and goes hand in hand with screening. So I cannot overemphasize the importance of screening here. It's very, very important to catch it in the first stages, as all the doctors here would agree with me that that's the way to have a sure cure, or at least very good average of people who can have extended lives after cancer.
Thank you, ma'am. That. I think you are doing some great work, you and your organization, and so happy to hear that. Dr. Nitesh, a related question to you. There are obviously initiatives such as what ma'am just described that are happening in the society. Despite that, there is a huge, general lack of awareness when it comes to identification of cancer. Why do you think that's the case?
I think that's a very important point that you bring up. I will, in fact, start from where Renuka ji left, where not only does it improve curability, it actually comes down to cost as well as the side effects of treatment. So early detection is more curable at a lesser cost and also with less side effects. Now, this is where I feel we have failed to some extent. A lot of patients, when I ask them about cancer and cure, it's something it doesn't hit them because no one really believes they'll ever get cancer. So when you talk to people who are not patients yet, and you talk about if you get cancer, things will be so, but I never thought I'll get it. So it's not something that we think about. But if you change what we are saying that cancer is getting universal. Every household has one. We have had more cancer deaths in India than from COVID, than from cancer. Our population with cancer is about 10 times of what population with COVID is today. So this is a reality. And to add it all, you can have less chemo, less radiation, smaller surgeries, and more curability. I think we will change the dictum. The second thing is we've been very poor at measuring what good we are doing, and for natural reasons. It's been so difficult to do what Mr. Prasad has been and ICS and many others have done. That itself has been so difficult that we've not really seen which bit caused the biggest impact. And for all these reasons, I think people at large who are not sensitized to cancer because someone in the immediate family does not have one are yet shying away from understanding that this is universal, this is happening, and symptoms can't be ignored. So I think those are the kind of key factors why we have still not taking it as many parts of West is because they've seen it at home, almost every home, once at least.
True. I think well said, sir. I think, like you said, it's a question of being almost in denial that this is something that's not going to happen to me. We see it all around.
Which is a natural denial. It's a human denial, right? So we're not denying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. My next question is to Dr. Peush Bajpai. Doc, what are the clinical signs and symptoms that are differential to stage 1, 2, 3, and stage 4 of cancer? I think, like we said, I think a little bit of understanding of how to detect these signs would probably be helpful, to then take the next
Yeah.
steps?
Yeah, thank you for this question, Rashmi. So now the thing is that we talk about stage, and every cancer would have a different stage. So when we talk about that, how what is the stage? It, in other words, means the extent of spread the cancer has already, whether it is limited to one part of the body or has spread to another part of the body. So that is what in a brief stage means, and it also reflects also how the outcome would be, also the sort of treatment the patient would get. Dr. Nitesh just gave a brief that we are getting late stages of cancer, and that is because of the awareness not being so much and the other causes. So as compared to the Western world, there are cancers where we can catch them early, and we are not being able to do so, and they're presenting most of the time in slightly advanced stage. Not all cancers you can detect early. That is a very important point to understand, that there are cancers like lung, there are cancers like GI cancers. Not every time you would be able to catch them early. But now there are certain screening methodologies which have come up for certain set of cancers where we can catch them at an early stage. So to talk about the most prime example, and that is the breast cancer. And if I talk about it, any lump which is developing, especially to start with in early stages, the stage 1 and 2, most of the times the lump in the breast would be painless. And this lump would actually be not in a premenopausal lady. This lump might not be varying in size with the menstrual cycle most of the times. This would be usually a painless lump in a breast. And if it's also there in the armpit, and what Madam Prasad just told, that self-breast examination is so important for every lady, that if this lump is caught early in the breast, the self-breast examination also emphasizes the importance of examining the armpit. And there, actually, the first site of spread for a breast cancer is in the node. The node is the first site once the cancer actually starts spreading outside. So this is primarily the stage 1 and 2 of breast cancer. Once these the sizes of these become painful, or they become sort of more number of nodes, or matted, or in the other sense, the node size increases, or the lump becomes painful, then it goes towards a stage 3. And of course, if the patient is presenting with a back pain or a headache or a cough with associated breast lump, it might be a advanced stage of breast cancer. So with this example of breast cancer, I think so these stages can be specified. However, not every cancer can be caught in early stage, but most of the common ones can be.
Cadila, yeah. Thank you so much. I think that was really, really helpful. I'm just
Rashmi, can I add a very quick point? Peush has enumerated very nicely about what we call red flag signs. But I also noticed that not only doctors sometimes ignore red flag signs. So if you know your body and you know something is wrong, and even if your doctor says it's fine, please ask him, could this be cancer? That's something I've said many times before. I'm just reiterating that.
So, I think that's a wonderful point that you made, sir, because I used to have a lump behind my ear, and my doctor kept saying the same thing, that it's just normal, but it kept growing to the extent where it was visible from behind my ear. And I think you mentioned earlier that denial is a big part of it. And finally, when I did go and get a biopsy done, fortunately, it turned out to be non-malignant, and we had it removed surgically. But it was a very traumatic time to to even think of the possibility that was there. So I think that's a very, very fair point that you made. Thank you so much for actually bringing that up. I was like I was saying earlier, I think digitization has somewhere, or technology rather, has been helping us in all walks of life, and therefore that brings me to my next question to Mr. Venkataraman. So how do you think the evolving role of digitization and tools like AI, how are they connected to cancer care?
Thank you, VOH. It's really an honor to be in the midst of an eminent panel. On digitization, we don't need to go too much back in time. If we just were 20 years ago as to what banking was vis-a-vis what banking is today, many people, many of the youngsters would not have seen a passbook. There are more Facebook accounts than passbooks today. Many people in communication would not have known what is a telegram, which was a one-way linear type of communication. Many people would not have seen a landline phone directly migrated to literally a 4G all digital network. In When it comes to healthcare, thinking instead of a linearity, where we have always had a one-on-one kind of engagement. If you have a problem, you need to come to me, and I will do XYZ for you. Vis-a-vis trying to look at it like a quadratic and or an exponential, where the power of networks kick in, because whether you're rich or poor, irrespective of geography and or a location, uh, once we start decoupling the knowledge and delivery of oncology on the back of a curated knowledge architecture coupled with a digital backbone, it really doesn't matter. It has transformed several industries. Among many pieces of healthcare, oncology or cancer is exactly ripe for such a disruption, because to the best of my understanding, no person has reached a cancer center saying, look, I am dying, treat me today. It's never happened either in India or anywhere in the United States. It's a fairly planned protocol. Obviously, there are distinctions between what one sees XYZ, but almost 70 to 80% of cases are fairly apt for a planned hierarchy. And the expertise is unfortunately limited to a few centers and to a few people. But once you start unbundling it, the capability of such people could be available to a vast number of masses. We have seen those trends. Today, political rallies are held online where thousands of people are participating in real time. So I think we may wish to take learnings from other industries and adopt in healthcare. And as what COVID also has taught us many lessons. Today, our security guard at our compound is himself a first line of doctor. The second line of doctor is a guy who checks our vaccination certificate. So in the case of cancer care, if we build a participatory node of engagement vis-a-vis the people who do prevention and early detection, vis-a-vis the people at diagnostics, people who do the care delivery systems, as well as people who follow the pain and palliative care mechanisms, link up all of that in a systematic way. I think India offers a unique opportunity, because we are at a stage where we are not bound by the legacy systems. We can literally leapfrog a generation in terms of care.
Thank you so much. I think that is very, very well said. And you're absolutely right about that. In fact, if you look at this very conversation that we are happening, it's thanks to technology. And, there's so many, we're all in our own homes and offices and taking this message out to the world. So yes, definitely, I think what you said is absolutely relevant. My next question is to Mr. Ashish Kumar. Sir, how do you think the Indian pharmaceutical industry can play a role in making the drugs accessible to everyone? How can it help it make it more affordable to everyone as well?
Thank you, Rashmi. Thanks for that question, and thanks to Voice of Health's honor to be part of this eminent group. Already 25-30 minutes spent has been a great learning experience. So I'll answer your question in two parts, Rashmi. The first part being what role Indian pharmaceutical industry has already played, and the second would be what more can be done to make the drugs even more affordable and accessible. Coming to the first part, that what already has been done, I think we must say that Indian pharmaceutical companies have played a lot of role, and though it's work in progress, but the high quality generics which are available today in India, I think the world is also proud of, because US also 80% of its generics depend upon India today. So if we talk about various health schemes, various state insurance schemes, most of the patients today are able to take the drugs because the cheaper generics are available, the cheaper quality generics, I should say, are available, and the whatever limits are being specified because of these quality drugs, the patients are able to take. If I talk about biosimilars, which every country is today talking about, even the developed nation, because that can bring the impact of the healthcare burden and the economic impact can be huge. India today is the leader in the world on the biosimilars. India has over 100 biosimilars approved. No other country in the world has that. And if I talk about EU whole European Union has over 50 biosimilar approved, and US is less than 30. So that has been the impact of Indian pharmaceutical industry. And when I'm talking about biosimilars, it's only a handful of companies today making biosimilar, and still they're able to get over 100 biosimilars approved. Today, we have multiple publications from the India, from many major cancer institutes, which say that the access to drugs like rituximab, trastuzumab, it has increased significantly post biosimilars came in. So, a lot to be proud of from the Indian pharmaceutical area. And I was saying, even if we talk about Ayushman Bharat today and various state schemes, I'm talking today from Ahmedabad, where we have My Yojana. You go to Punjab, you have CM scheme, we have PM scheme across. So the schemes give anywhere between 2 to 5 lakh rupees to the cancer patients. And since we have these accessible cancer drug available through the Indian pharmaceutical industry, most of the patients today have access to the treatment. Now, coming to the second part, what more can be done, and what is more that the oncologists from the India definitely are looking from the Indian pharmaceutical industry is, which would help probably close the care gap further, is surely the next step now has to be taken. Last 2 decades, we have given the best generics from the Indian pharmaceutical industry, but now the time has come to also boost the research and development and to also add innovation from India, so that more accessible, innovative drugs can come from India. Because whatever accessible options to the Indian pharmaceutical industry is giving is most of the drugs when they get off patent. And till the time we have the patency for an innovative drug, many of these drugs are out of bounds for most patients. So now the time has come. I think the next decade, the Indian pharmaceutical industry has to step into more research and innovation, bring more innovative solutions from India, and it would allow our oncologists deliver even more. So that's the next step the Indian pharmaceutical industry has to take. Over to you.
Thank you so much. In fact, I'm going to take a cue from what you said about innovations and address my next question to Dr. Vineet Talwar. So, what are the innovations that we're currently seeing, in cancer treatment? And again, the second part would be, are these innovations accessible and affordable to everyone?
Thank you, Rashmi. I generally give my favorite whenever you discuss what are the in our armamentarium. We started with the surgery initially, then in the late 90s, we went with the radiation, then chemotherapy, then we have come to targeted therapy, and now newer vistas are there that is known as immunotherapy. So just to explain in a couple of minutes, I give that my favorite mango tree example. Suppose you want to take a mango out of the tree. When you give chemotherapy, you fill your pockets with the stones and you start hitting wildly at the mango tree in the hope that one of the stones will go and hit the mango and the mango will come down. But what you do is you damage the branches, you damage the leaves, you damage the tree, which are the side effects which are there generally, which we see with the chemotherapeutic drugs. Now the next innovation which came, that was the targeted therapy. Now with targeted therapy, what I am doing is I'm going to the tree, I climb the ladder, reach the branch, take a scissor and snip off the mango. Meaning thereby, I hit the target which is there on the tumor cell. And if the drug goes and hits the target, bingo, you get the cell kill. Or the next innovation is immunotherapy. Now with immunotherapy, what I'm going to do is neither I hit the target nor I blast the chemotherapy. What I do is I energize the tree, the power of the tree, the intrinsic fighting mechanism of the tree to such an extent that the branch where the mango is, that branch gets shriveled and the mango drops down.
Wow.
So in the third case, that is immunotherapy, when you energize the T cells, the natural killer cells which are in the body, they go themselves lead the cell. So these are the three innovations which have occurred over few decades, I'll put it. And now what we are doing is we are trying to combine immunotherapy with targeted therapy or targeted therapy with immunotherapy. Or there are situations, suppose in cancer of the cervix, where the latest studies have shown that you can combine the chemotherapy drugs with the targeted drugs, with the immunotherapy drugs. And when you give all of them, then definitely you have a best cell kill. So having said that, the answer to your the second question, the
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah.
Cost, as all of us know, market, a very few percentage of the population which are coming under the ambit of insurance. So if
Yeah.
that is the case, then there, the issues come as far as the allocation of the government resources are there, or the personal finances which come into the being. So wherever you have generics, good generics, then there, we have the liberty to use them and get the best benefit out. But wherever there are new drugs which come under the intellectual property rights, unfortunately, we are not able to give that benefit. We have the PM Relief Fund and the CM Relief Fund. All those are there. So we try to juggle around with these funds. We try to juggle around with the patient assistance plans, which are given by the companies. But then at the end of the day, if you have to give the latest cutting edge technology, the finances are the ones which are the biggest prognostic factor, which make the treatment woefully inadequate. So I guess to a certain extent, chemotherapy we are able to give, sometimes targeted therapy, which are the generic ones. But immunotherapy still, I must confess, remains to be a challenge as far as the treatment is concerned.
Thank you, sir. I think, yeah, it's sad, but I guess there are some things we have to just, wait for times to catch up. You talked about treatments. It would be also nice to understand, what are the innovations in cancer diagnosis itself. So, Dr. Peush Bajpai, if you could take that question and help us understand that, have there been any latest innovations in that area? And again, because this year we're talking about, the theme this year has been about closing the cure gap. My question again would be that, these innovations of diagnosis, are they accessible and affordable for everyone?
So there have been plenty of innovations, and talking about cancer imaging, there it has gone much better, and we are now able to image the functional imaging in the form of PET-CT, and this is growing better and better. So definitely, what it was 10 years back, the PET scan costs in India have definitely come down and are now it's getting quite affordable as well. Talking about the further pathology diagnostics, there again there has been a improvement in terms of understanding the molecular mechanisms better, and it is possible because the now we can actually isolate the cancer DNA and look into the specifics, as what Dr. Talwar was saying, that target the cancer, looking at the particular weak points of cancer, where those can be actually clipped or drugged. So these are called biomarkers, and to analyze these, there are platforms as in next generation sequencing or other platforms. Now these platforms, once they were introduced to India, they were actually very expensive to start with, but over the past years what we are seeing is that there are now, these tests are now also being done in our country, and a lot of labs are coming up with these tests and better standardizations as well. So definitely the costs have come down because this is now possible because we are doing it in India as well. But the important point remains that though we have a test done, and though it's still not very affordable, I would say, the point is that whether the treatment that is going to be given thereafter, would the patient be able to afford that? So that is still a big challenge that we need to understand. And of course, that needs to be addressed before we pass on this benefit of better diagnosis. Because if we do not have a treatment to offer, then the better diagnosis might not be a great thing. So that's what it is.
Thank you so much. And I think we have someone amongst us who's been working on this. So, Dr. Renuka ji, this question is for you. How does your NGO, help in aiding in managing some of these high treatment costs, especially for stage 3 and stage 4 cancer?
You see, Rashmi, it's not only just stage 3 and 4, it's also for the stage 1 and 2 that can become very costly.
Okay.
Excuse me. So what we have is, we have two kinds of funds. One is basically the Diagnostic Fund, which starts with a person who has just been diagnosed, but not completely diagnosed. There is a doubt that there is cancer, but has to go in for a PET scan, has to go in for the other tests and all. So we do give an additional amount of 25,000 for all that diagnosis to be complete. Okay, once that's done, then comes the question of the basic treatment costs. For treatment costs, if the patient is coming in through our own screening camps, then we really take the patient on a 360 degrees and bring him back, give him the treatment, get him back on his feet, take him for rehabilitation, and reintegrate him back into society. That is the second part. The other part is, on a regular basis, we do give medical or financial aid, but we call it medical aid because no money is exchanged. It's just the medication which is prescribed, which is given through one of our own chemists, and who bills it to us, and we take that cost. Now, we have 17 hospitals within Delhi NCR, which we have worked out modalities where we are getting concessions from them. And the biggest concession that we get from them is that we can buy the drugs from our own chemist and not the chemist who is within the locales of that hospital itself, because the cost really goes phenomenally high there. So we are able to bring down the cost for us and offer that service to the person who's undergoing the treatment. The other bit is that we are able to get this money not through government funds, but through voluntary donations, which we garner over the year. We've been doing it really well and increasing our numbers of patients whom we've been treating all along. But unfortunately, COVID has played really a spoil spot, and all the CSR money went to the government for the COVID, and we were left, because we are dependent on the CSR. We were left really hanging, trying to get money from here and there, and did get the money. Notwithstanding that, let me also tell you that we have a certain criteria put in place. It's not that any ABCD who comes to us and says he wants money, that we give it to him. So there is a criteria laid down. Firstly, the patient has to be be treated in one of those 17 hospitals who are giving us certain benefits. A. B, the cost of that treatment is up to a limit that we used to give up to 2 lakhs per annum, but now we are giving 2 lakhs over 2 years. So it's 1 lakh per annum. Thereafter also comes in the fact that the doctor recommends the patient, and the recommendation is done on a good prognosis. Like you said, for anything, the money is scarce. The people who are wanting it is huge. So somewhere, you just have to take a heavy heart and, cut down and say, okay, only cases where there is a prognosis and the person is going to live, and maybe if it's a younger person and things like that, all play into this game. And then we have a medical committee which goes through all this. Hospital coordinators have been recommending these cases, and that's how it's a process. But, to make it really foolproof, you have to go through the process. because it's, after all, not our money. It's the donor's money, and it's accountable. We have to give our account at the end of the year as to where that money has gone and how many have survived at the end of it also. There's no point in just putting that money into a pit where you're going to not recover any bit of it. So that is some of the way that we try and help out. And like I told you, it doesn't have to be stage 3 or 4, it could be any stage. And we also give out a certain amount, very limited amount, because we don't take palliation, patients with us, but we do take a few who are on a maintenance drugs. So we are able to give them up to 50,000 rupees per annum spread over 2 years. That's the kind of aid that we do try and give. And it has become a part of us. We have a lot of fundraising, which is done. We have 3 major events over the year. We have a golf tournament. We have Artist Against Cancer. And we have other kind of events that keep coming up over the year to be able to collect money for this medical fund and to be able to pay off for these patients who are in dire need, who are in really dire need. And we see this day in and day out. Now, since the office was closed in between, we were getting all the letters. Our giving that money never stopped. It never came to a standstill. We were doing it online. The doctors were sending it to us. The PROs in the hospitals are very cooperative. The doctors are very cooperative. And they are able to help us out by, processing the papers and sending them online. It's a little bit of work for them, but they're all willing to go that extra mile to see that the patient gets the benefit.
Thank you so much. This is so heartwarming, right? With everyone kind of doing our own little bit. And thank you so much. I think I don't know if I should say this, but maybe you have survived and you're around so that you can help so many others. So
That's
I
what I
really,
feel.
really hope
That's what I always feel. I feel maybe it's a blessing that's come to me, and it's a call that's come to me from the people above, and I'm willing to take it on.
Thank you, ma'am. I mean, you're truly making a difference, and I think that's what we need, right? Um, in fact, taking on from here, I think we're all trying to do things in our own little ways. But I think there's also an importance of public and private partnerships, a role that insurance also has to play in this entire ecosystem. And that brings me to this question, that how can these public private partnerships or insurance actually help in making this cancer care more affordable to people and accessible to people. And I'd like both Mr. Kumar and Mr. Venkataraman to address this question. So Mr. Kumar, if you could go first.
Sure. Thanks for that question. I think it's so pertinent in today's time, the public-private partnership and the insurance. But if I say first things first, to provide the affordable cancer care, I think we have to first sort the awareness about the insurance before even talk about the insurance at every level in the society. And we all have to be the flag bearer of that. Today, most patients who would not get treatment is because of lack of resources. And while supporting cancer patients in family, somebody's dreams would also be ruined when a family is supporting a cancer patient. So we have to make society aware of insurance, and to bring insurance amount low and have more coverage per family is something which we'll have to bring through the partnerships. If we look at the Indian household spend, and if I talk about the families who are buying cars which are less than 10 lakhs, I think it's a data in the public domain that 95% of the cars today are taken on loan. Over 97% of the homes are taken over loan. But when you talk about health, cancer care, and then you look at the loan facility, I will not say it is not, but it has been coming up. But then there has been limited usage over it for various reasons. So on the one side, this household are not buying insurance. We have less than 10% of the families in India buying insurance. Then on the other side, we have certain schemes which provide loans for the cancer care, but then those facilities are not being used. So I think a lot of things first has to start with the awareness, and here is the role for industry, hospitals, government. We all have to come together to ensure that we find better ways to support patients. If I was referring to and alluding to the Ayushman and the various schemes which might give 3 to 5 lakh rupees, and as Renuka ji also said that they're also supporting, like the NGOs are supporting so much in terms of the financial aid. But if you look at, say, a patient whose treatment cost is say 6 lakh rupees or 7 lakh rupees, and he has an access to 5 lakh rupees of from various insurance or from the NGOs, I am sure that in most cases he would use that money, and probably the rest of the treatment would be left there. So I think it is not just that we have to start the treatment, we also have to collaborate together through this public-private partnership to ensure that the patients, especially with those with good prognosis, also end the treatment. So a lot of things are there for collaboration, and that is where the industry, the government, the hospitals, everybody has to come together and play their part in this partnership to ensure that the patients finish their treatment. I'll pass it on to Mr. Venkataraman.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate. I think before coming into public or private, it's also important to understand people. We often miss that essential ingredient of it, and all of us are equally responsible, if not more, in trying to get a solution to this otherwise seemingly intractable problem. I might sound a bit distracted or out of line. If you look at in terms of the closeness to death of people, first is of course God, second is undertaker, third is an oncologist. And because the kind and type of cases they see, 7 out of 10 given the stage which they reach are either palliative or end of life, 16 to 18 months. And despite the best of efforts of experts over several years, same thing consistently happens. And the emphasis on early detection, right kind of diagnostics, trying to get multiple systems to talk to each other in a participatory mode of engagement rather than a proprietary mode of association are all equally important. As one of my colleagues used to say and still says, we need to look at cancer as something which is there in the community. It is not bound by bricks or walls or edifices of, look, it can be done only here or there or elsewhere. But if each and every one of us undertakes some responsibility, we might push the boundaries of what is the art of possible. Earlier, Dr. Peush and Dr. Talwar mentioned even on basic awareness of HPV testing, how many of us in our own families know at a first or second degree of association, women above the age of 25 need to be tested. Today is World Cancer Day. How many of posts are there trending in Facebook, internet, in Instagram or WhatsApp type of equivalent, whereas some of the trends are which movie actor is wearing what dress and etc. So I think all of us have a collective responsibility towards it. And when it comes to public or private, so long as we mitigate that suspicion of one is trying to hoodwink the other or vice versa, and work towards addressing a common problem which might seem to be seemingly impossible, but as what COVID has demonstrated us, the collaboration with Zydus, which government had, or also with Bharat Biotech on developing India's first vaccine, etc., it seems to prove that this is eminently possible. And we can also get, as Nitesh and others have in several conversations mentioned, we can leapfrog with respect to next generation sequencing, data analysis, what is very unique to us. For example, cancers like gallbladder cancer are very unique to places like India and Chile. You don't find such cancers anywhere. Globally, 30% of all cancers of head and neck are in India because of tobacco and a whole range of things. So we have to, there is no option but to be participative, whether it is public, private, NGOs, government, charitable trusts. So long as we acknowledge and have that humility that, look, we don't know everything. We know only X, and our own understanding of it is evolving over decades. For example, 10 years ago, nobody even bothered about to check out on all the markers relating to many of the immuno-onco drugs that have come in today. But if you go to any hospital, trying to get the basic markers has become a standard of care. Whether you are affordable or not, that's a separate issue. So what one would like and encourage everyone, as our Honorable Prime Minister says, Jan Bhagidari. Like everyone needs to be responsible for our own outcomes. So long as we build that mechanism in some form or the other, and really appreciate forums like VOH and initiatives like this, where multiple people come together to talk about a cause, it'll possibly amplify the message to here and beyond.
Absolutely. I think very well said, actually. In fact, I think even this session, the fact that it's going to be broadcasted to so many people, and then we can further share links. Tech, fortunately, does help us or give us the opportunity to be able to do these things. Despite that, we know that there are still gaps in cancer care, and my next question is to Dr. Nitesh. So what are these gaps that you think are still existing in cancer care, and how do you think some of these can be eliminated?
Yeah, thank you for that, Rashmi. I think it's amalgamation of everything that's been said, from Dr. Vineet talking about that immunotherapy is so phenomenal for some patients, not for the others. So a better understanding will help. From Peush talking about that he has some markers which can really help to take it to the next level and cut the gap. And then Dr. obviously Renuka ma'am talking about that cost is limited. I mean, 2 lakh rupees is a lot of money for many, but it's a cost of half a dose of immunotherapy today. And then Venkat put forward a very interesting paradigm of how we can take it to the next level. So, to my mind, putting it together is the real gap. Can we be disruptive enough to say, for example, when we're talking about cost of drugs through channels, and I think I'll ask Venkat's opinion on this, and I know he's thought about this. So can we be disruptive enough to put maybe 300, 400 centers under one pharmaceutical group and do mass buying? We cut down cost. Can we centralize the entire laboratories to 10 labs in huge spaces? Can we put not 2 but 30 linear accelerators in one place and cut down cost? You see, so it is disruption at every level, which is what Venkat started off with, right? We in India are the only ones who are capable of leapfrogging because our problem in numbers is more than the West. Not problem in percentage of patient getting it, but problem in numbers more than the West. Our telephone technology is largest in the world. It is way ahead of what the West has. Our new age young population only wants to use the new technology. So we need to be disruptive. We are still following the American dogma applied to Indian patients and then saying it's expensive. And I'm saying research needs to be not 200 patients, but 25,000 patients. I'm saying that Ashish needs to invest in a different form. We don't need to start saying you should get insured. We should insure a whole state by CSR money. Why are we not insuring the whole city of a state? We can do that, but we just have not created enough disruption to clear that gap. And I think that's the biggest gap. Not gap in saying I want to treat 5% patient better for 3 months survival.
That is so well said. I think disruption is the key word in all industries, right? And I think why not here as well?
I'll take Venkat's opinion. I know Venkat has a view on this also. So if you don't mind, I would like to hear what Venkat has to say.
Absolutely.
No, I think Nitesh, you know me long enough on this. We are complete outliers or mavericks on this space. When Nitesh and I were talking about a particular project in Bhopal, we said if the city of Bhopal literally pays 1 rupee a day, which is effectively under 300 rupees, we can insure every single person in the city of Bhopal for a treatment cost of up to 10 lakhs or even more. It's technically and theoretically possible because uh, much of today's insurance has all been on the back of post facto. If someone ends in a hospital, what is my outcome? But when we flip that into a managed care construct, like Ms. Prasad and others have been indicating, try to get large number of asymptomatic people get symptom checked, post that risk assessment, get them to the nearest navigation center to do a clinical breast examination, ultrasound, and or a digital mammogram. Get to the next level with respect to attempting a biopsy, core biopsy, FNAC, or a fine needle aspirated biopsy, as the case might be. As Nitesh said, centralize the labs, take the frozen section, send it to one location where histology, IHC, and molecular combined are done, where the diagnostics is determined right at the first instance. And then once you have the clinical decision support system, then the delivery system becomes agnostic. Once you have all the knowledge base curated and available to an individual and built on a participatory mode of association, there is value in it for everybody. And for this, huge value for pharma, huge value for the financial industry, and of course for the doctors. Everyone, no one likes a person coming to say that, look, you're not going to live beyond 6 or 8 months. And it's a very painful process for everybody. The outcomes will dramatically improve. And amongst most nations, we have an incredible opportunity. We have done that in telecom, we have done that in retail, we have done that in several industries, except that when it comes to healthcare, we are often spooked by the mountain that is, on the look of it, seems to be seemingly impossible, but it's not insurmountable.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to add anything on the topic, or especially what both Dr. Nitesh and
Well, I really like what Venkataraman has said, and I just hope and pray that we can get to that kind of a day when we are able to treat anyone and everyone who needs proper treatment, which is the latest diagnostic and the treatment which is available in the not only here in India but abroad, and we are able to bring it back to our own people here. I love that.
Absolutely. I think, when we started off the session and, when you hear World Cancer Day, it's not the nicest thing to hear, but, after this panel discussion, at least for me, has been more positive than anything else, because there is a way, there is a way to a better world, to a fitter world, to a cancer-free world. And I think we all need to come together to do that. Thank you so much, everyone.
On that note, Rashmi, no smoking, exercise more, lose weight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like,
And no red meat.
I'll
And
actually
that
add.
is what we live by.
Yes. So the other thing is also, I mean, I work, I've been asking questions very quickly. I work, on this, I've set up a health platform called Linari, and what we're trying to do is raise a lot of awareness around the menstrual cycle and the hormone cycle, and how women's health is, the research, etc., even when it comes to cancer, for example, how it affects women differently than men. And in one of these research, the very obvious things is the toxins or the dioxins that are released through sanitary napkins that are out there, and how actually using menstrual cups and other formats, or cleaner formats of menstrual hygiene products can actually prevent things like cervical cancer. I think there's so much, right, at every level, small little things that we do. Thank you so much. I mean, I don't know what work is going on a larger platform on these issues, because unfortunately we still have large companies which are dumping these products which are so toxic into the, not just the environment, but something which is so close to our intimate parts. Not my place to comment, but yeah, I mean, I would love to hear if anyone has any comments on this one. And how do you think, collectively as a society, we can tackle issues such as these? Specifically related to cervical cancer, yeah.
Since no one is taking it, I'll quickly take that. There are two parts to that, Rashmi. And you're right that these and many areas are influenced by the financial parts of the world. But I won't be over cynical about it. There's still two parts to it. Part one is having a clear directional evidence that the damage is happening, which clearly there is a case for this. But B is also seeing the impact of that. And then comes part two, which is advocacy, which we know in our country is extremely weak. And unfortunately, small platforms don't make it big here. But again, it comes down to disruption, it comes down to noise, it comes down to perseverance of that noise. And I think if you join hands with a couple of firms, if instead of just VOH, Renuka ma'am joins in, and we make noise with maybe Tata in the background, I'm saying that you can start seeing some movement, you can start seeing some noise, you can create more noise, and you can create more noise in 2021 than ever before. So that's my 2 bits to that. But you must have some evidence which is properly conducted to say that, because theory and facts may be slightly different.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm going to actually write to all of you and seek help on this one. And thank you so much to Voice of Healthcare, to actually, I always say this, that when you try and do something good, somehow, magically things come together. So when they invited me to speak, or rather moderate this panel, I knew that it also came from this little tiny personal agenda that, I'm going to ask you guys for help. So I am going to connect with all of you. Thank you so much for your time. And I really, really hope that together, we can all make a difference. Thank you, Voice of Healthcare, for organizing this. And I'm going to wrap up the session with that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
Bye.